things. What do you think are the big areas that performance management systems in particular will have to overcome? What are the cultural issues, the people issues that people are likely to encounter if they're addressing these type of things?
So it's very interesting that you bring this up, because in the book, Drive Business Performance, we describe this model, the 6 stages that any organizations go through. The last stage, the top stage, is a culture of performance, because we recognize that business intelligence is about processes, it is about technology, but it is primarily about people. And maybe let me give you more context around that. If you think about what organizations are trying to do today, it's really the ability to connect information and people. Now, there's multiple types of relationship. There's people to information, there's people to people, and information to information. When in the case of information to information, it's automation. So one of the top issues is, where's the line between automation of certain tasks and involvement of people judgment? That's definitely something that needs to come during the conversations of deploying business intelligence systems and even initiatives in general. The other one that is a very cultural aspect of the organization, where we notice organizations that win have a particular event in the life of the organization that trigger a cultural change. So, when we interviewed a large amount of organizations throughout the book, and organizations such as Fortis and Expedia and Energizer all had a particular event, and sometimes it's a new CEO coming in. So I think what we're noticing is one of the tough issues for culture is actually having a leader that is going to drive this down. There's a lot that you can do bottom up, and you'll get sponsorship when you do that. But sponsorship is a little tricky, because sponsorship is somebody above you that tells you, I think it's a good idea and good luck with that. When you have a new leader, it's a mandate. An example of Fortis, Jean-Paul Vautron, who happened to be nominated for the performance of Fortis over the years as Business Manager of the Year, he got that because he came in and he said, this is the way we're going to run this company. He projected a goal over 5 years of margin, which they actually achieved over 3 years, so almost half of the time. And he also said, we're developing a culture of performance, a calibrated and a culture of performance, which basically sent a message to the entire organization, which is, we're not hiding anymore. We're going to calibrate everybody, and we're going to make performance extremely personal, which is also a key lesson. I think when you think about performance management, tying it to the individual performance is very important. And the reason for that is because measures are essential, but they drive behavior and action. And if you can't relate the action to the person and relate it in a way that's more than theoretical, which impacts the incentive of that person, then you really don't have anything. You just have a dashboard with a bunch of nice green, red, and yellow lights on it, but you don't have something that's actually the system of the organization driving behavior. So this cultural shock, really, or this cultural change that we describe in the book, is propelled when you have a new leader come in.
We're focused ultimately here at Cranfield on the practical.
Yep.
So I guess it would be really useful if there are just kind of 3 key points that you want people who are watching to take away in terms of practical advice that they can use in their day-to-day jobs.
There's quite a few things, and again, those come from the best practices in some of the organizations that we've been able to interview throughout the book. We traveled over 20 countries, and we have interviewed companies that are small companies as well as large companies across public and private sector. And there's 2 or 3 things that we see. The first one is when business intelligence or performance management starts in finance, the organizations that win understand that it's more than just finance itself. So it's like trying to paint a room, but only one wall of that entire room is perfectly fine. And that's typically an approach that fails, because you want the entire room to be marching along the same beat and so forth. Related to that, so second piece of advice, I guess the first one was when you're in finance and you start in business intelligence, think broader than just finance. The second piece of that is develop what we call a language of performance. What I mean by that is, often in the corporate context, we agree that margin needs to go up. Do we agree on the definition of margin? And really, drilling down that concept is extremely important, because often you'll get finance and marketing folks talking about margin, and they quickly realize they don't have the same definition. So they're going at a problem that they think they have common understanding, and they actually don't. I think there are statistics in the market that a typical organization has up to 400 definitions of the term customer. So agreeing on those terms is important. The best way that I can relate to it, I'm French, so in learning the English language, I was told you just need 8,000 words, and once you have 8,000 words, you can speak English. Well, actually, that's not true. If you don't understand the context then you don't speak the language. So an expression like break a leg can mean good luck, or can mean actually go out and break a leg. So this language of performance, which is the words, the context of within these words are being used, creates a common understanding and helps you drive business performance. So I guess advice number one is think broader than finance. Advice number two is go after this language of performance. And it is not just one version of the truth. It's not just having the right number or right piece of data, but it's the understanding around what that data is and how we think about it. The third piece, just to leave you, since you asked for three, the third piece is performance management is a marketing job. Here's what I mean by that. Expedia, Siemens, a large amount of the organizations that we talk about, understand that to develop a culture of performance, you have to make sure that people think about it ongoing. So Expedia, for instance, had internal campaigns. Every 30 days, they made sure that people heard about what's being done to measure their performance, how it's tied to their compensation. What are the things that you're doing on a daily basis that impact the bottom line of the organization? Siemens had this logo they developed on reports, where it was a picture of a cobra, and cobra happens to be the acronym for the organization that runs this report. But when you saw that cobra picture, you knew that the report that you're looking at are actually the truth. So as you're developing that, and then you're reminded of these signs across the organization that you are looking at the right numbers, and what you're doing is relevant to the measures that drive your business, then you really start having more than just a system that measures performance, but you have a system that actually drives performance, which is ultimately where you want to go.
Bruno, thanks very much indeed. A lot of very interesting things there to think about. It's been a pleasure having you in.